Matthew chapter 4, verses 1 through 11. Then was Jesus led up of the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted of the devil. And when he had fasted 40 days and 40 nights, he was afterwards hungered. And when the tempter came to him, he said, If thou be the Son of God, command these stones be made to bread. But he answered and said, It is written, Man shall not live by bread alone, but every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of God. Then the devil took him up into the holy city, and set him on a pinnacle of the temple, and said unto him, If thou be the Son of God, cast thyself down, for it is written, He shall give his angels charge concerning thee, and in their hands they shall bear thee up, lest at any time thou dash thy foot against a stone. Jesus said unto him, It is written again, Thou shalt not tempt the Lord thy God. Again, the devil took him up into an exceeding high mountain, and showed him all the kingdoms of the world, and the glory of them, and said unto him, All these things I will give thee, if thou wilt bow down and worship me. Then said Jesus unto him, Get thee hence, Satan, for it is written, Thou shalt not worship the Lord thy God. Thou shalt worship the Lord thy God, and him only shalt thou serve. Then the devil left him, and behold, angels came and ministered unto him. Him who? Jesus. I opened this video with that scripture, Matthew 4, 1 through 11, because the beginning of this video really has something with the scripture, and what I'll point it out to you shortly. What this video is about, it's about the structure of our social and economic setup here on this earth. And I made a video, a couple of them. One was a prophecy I believe was given to me. The other is a series of 3 videos that deals with the spiritual warfare we are under. And in those videos, it left a question hanging. Where are we going? You know, where is humanity headed from this point on? So this video will answer that. And I'm going to first start with, again, the social and economic structure that exists in this world. And the very first thing I like to focus on but I'd like you to take a look at the image here on this dollar, the pyramid we're all so familiar with. I also like you to pay attention to the very top of the pyramid. It is illuminated. Now, between that scripture I read and the symbol on the dollar will begin this video, the context of this video. The very top of the pyramid has to do with the elite class. What is the elite class? The elite class is a group of people that understand what true wealth is. The next level is what I call the plantation owners. And this is where that scripture fits in, because the devil offered Jesus Christ a kingdom. Anyone he wanted on this earth. Well, again, the plantation owners are the kings of the kingdoms of this earth. And the next level is the executive. I call it executive level. And these are the people that the plantation owners hire in order to execute their goals, to meet the demands in order to reach their goal. After that, it's us mundane folks, our everyday folks, going to work every day, trying to make ends meet, and to try to get a dollar. I like to let the viewer know that this dollar is a ghost figure, and it keeps us caught in a rat trap, a race trap, what do they call it, a rat trap, running on the circle, hamster's wheel, because this is not true wealth. And the elite knows this. They always have. And because they know this, they set a plan in motion many years ago, hundreds and hundreds of years ago, hundreds of years ago. And they started by first passing it down from generation to generation. This is the inheritance, knowing that there is an ultimate goal. And the goal is to what? For the elite. Take over the world. Yes. Just like in a little cartoon with the two little mice, Pinky and the Brain. The elite class want to take over the world and know just how to do it. You say, Nancy, well, how do you take over the world? Well, once you understand what real wealth is, it's an easy task. And they've known it, again, hundreds of years. So, they enlisted or developed kingdoms, the plantations. Some of these plantations are intergovernmental agencies, empires, and corporations. And we know them as, like, for instance, OPEC. You know, what is that called? The Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries. We also have food and agricultural organizations. We have human settlements programs. We have hydrographic organizations dealing with the water on this whole earth now. And the energy agencies. We have the World Trade Organization, WTO. We have the World Currency Exchange. We have law enforcement, different levels. We have the Space Agency. And these are just a few examples of these world kingdoms. Now, remember, the objective or the goal of the elite is to take over the world. And how do they take over the world? Guess what? Understanding what true wealth is. So let's talk about what true wealth is. True wealth has been provided on this earth and in this earth. It is our earth's natural resources. And so the elite knew that to possess and control these things would enhance and sustain their lives. There's one thing that they haven't, I believe, gotten control of, and that is to overcome death. Upon overcoming death, they can have this world forever. But let's stay within the realm in which we know that all must die. So we're going to stay within that and just say they're just trying to conquer the earth in order to harvesting the natural resources of this earth, which are life sustaining and which is the true wealth. Your health is your wealth. I know you heard that. Yeah. Well, that's what they're trying to do. And if they can't live forever, okay, so be it, until they figure it out. They are creating a lineage for their offspring. Now, how the game is played. The elite hire the plantation owners, the kingdoms of this world, to do what? To harvest the natural resources: oil, gold, water, food, seed, what? Crystals, quartz, all these things, minerals, all sustain us. Yeah, it's right outside, right outside. And through the centuries, they have manipulated us into losing our understanding about what real wealth is. So I am here in this video to remind you what real wealth is. So once the kingdoms are in place, those kingdoms can't um, harvest all the natural resources in this world. Mm-mm, mm-mm. They have to hire another level, and that's, I call the executive level. These are our people who are responsible for hiring the crews in each individual kingdom in order to go harvest these natural resources. And they do just that, manage. They manage them. Yeah. Under the executive level becomes the mundane, everyday folks like us, the laymen. Yeah. We work mediocre jobs, chasing a dollar. Hmm. But let's talk about the money that's earned, or the rewards that are gotten. Well, we know what the elite want: to take over the world. They can't do it by themselves. No. So they hire or enlist the plantation owner. The plantation owners know what the elite are after. And so uh, they usually have some investment in whatever the kingdom is. If it's oil, they have barrels of oil. And as you come down the chain of the hierarchy, or the chain of command, if you don't have barrels of oil, you might have stocks. Very powerful people. And between the highest level of the plantation owners and the elites, we find banks. Now we're going to talk about banking and loans, okay? But let's finish talking about the benefits on each level. So now we have the executive level. And the executive level, what do they benefit? Oh, I forgot to say power. Power to the elite, definitely. And natural resources taking over the world. Then the plantation owners have power. Some of the actual gold that they have power, and they have stock or substance from the kingdom that they run, as well as the power, the substance from the kingdom that they run, and money. The next level is the executive. The executive has power and money, but he doesn't usually own too many stocks, a few maybe, because it starts to dwindle as you go down. But the executive definitely does not own barrels of oil or whatever the substance is, the natural resource is. But they do have power, and they make a considerable amount of money. These people on the executive levels are the people that end up owning our everyday services. Where you're talking about like the McDonald's, the Burger King, the Arby's, the cleaners, the car lots, what else do we do every day? Every single day to fill our time. What we're actually doing is sustaining our lives. We have the The plantation owner, medical, And so from the medical comes different divisions or subdivisions where they have different supplies. So these become the executives' investments. And they invest in these subdivisions as a way to get residual income. Mhm. And then, like I said, then it's the mundane, everyday person like you and I. And what we do is we go to work every day to run these places that the executives own. Our jobs only exist in order to maintain the wealth of those above us. Okay. Yeah. Um, Knowing that, I want to go back in history and talk a bit about what slavery was about. Now, slavery wasn't just about oppressing a particular group of people. No, 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 no. What it was about was laying the ground. It was the onset of a plan, a bigger plan that we have yet to get to. Well, the elite have yet to get to, but they're very close. So the first thing, now think of the earth. The first thing that had to be accomplished or mastered was the tilling and the cultivation and the harvesting and the storage of life-sustaining materials. Everyday things just get you up so you can go to work. And so there had to be food, there had to be clothes, there had to be shelter, and things to help control the environment so we can stay warm. And so this is what slavery was about, getting enough stored up to get the masses into a place where they could continue to work day after day. A bunch of free labor, you know. And so the higher up you are in a hierarchy, of course, the better you get. But the polo slaves, they just got the bare minimum, the last little fibers to make their clothing, the last little food to glean off the land to feed their families, just enough to stay alive. Because the whole thing what was going on was, again, it was about tilling the land, cultivating the land, harvesting the land, and storing the substance of the land, life-sustaining materials, necessities of life, so that they could continue to execute their plan. Now, let's fast forward it currently to the present. Okay, well, before we get to the present, a little bit in between, is that now people are fighting for their freedom, and then liberation occurs. Liberation occurs at the same time we master the basic everyday requirements to live. Okay, so now we're liberated, and now they have to set new rules for the workforce. And the new rule is, we'll give you a fair wage for your day's work. Okay, everybody's happy, everybody's liberated. So people are going to work and they're getting paid. A ghost. A ghost. You're getting paid a promissory note. A ghost. No true wealth. Right? Every day. All day long. You go to work. And you make the dollar. And you're able to take this dollar and go buy the natural resources that are truly wealth in moderations. Things that you really need to sustain your life. Because those minerals that are outside, that are part of nature, that was here for us all, are the things that are used for medications, the medical field, pharmaceutical field. Gas to drive your car, oil, you know, out there. Um, or the fossil fuel out there, you know. But you're going to go earn this to buy a portion of that is controlled by the kingdom that rules it. Wow. Okay. Remember, we're still talking about this pyramid here on this dollar bill. So, the next thing is to realize that we, humanity, when I say we, lost somewhere along the way the understanding that Earth's natural resources were put here from God for all humanity in order to sustain us from generation to generation. Also, be aware that Earth's natural resources are the very thing that has allowed man to advance in technology and medically, you know? And pay attention. You don't have any of those natural resources. If you do, you have a very small portion. Something as simple as gold or diamonds or trillion or whatever the case may be. You have very few, very little. And again, I remember studying uh, about the different stones and gems and how they really are or have healing qualities, you know. And it's even mentioned in the Bible when it talks about heaven and how it's set up and what it's built and made of, and even the gates that you walk through, the pearl gates. And when you research the pearl, and you find out it's the antibiotic. So as soon as you walk through the gates of heaven, you are healed. You know, that's how sophisticated this earth is that we live on. We've been bamboozled. And see, I have lost my way. Now, I've talked about the elite class, the plantation owners, the executives. Oh, yeah. So the executives, our bosses, um, pay us this fair wage. Well, we get this fair wage, but again, we have this ghost dollar, this ghost bill, this promissory note, in which we use to buy a small portion of the life sustaining materials. So, every day, all day long, we are being contaminated with different diseases and then taking this ghost dollar to buy the remedy from the kingdom to heal us. It's game. Serious game. So where did I go here? Okay. Okay, I've done that. Oh. And so I actually call the mundane, everyday man like ourselves, we at the bottom of the barrel. Yes, we are. In these mundane jobs. I think I said it already. I'm moving so slow. But that these jobs only exist to maintain the wealth of the of the divisions above us. That's the only way it exists. And so what I want to talk about is those that work for very little and people that are on public assistance. Our world is set up to be, the people in the world are set up to be very critical and talk about how a person doesn't want to do or work for their living. Guess what? At this time in the history of man, those jobs are dwindling away. And where it starts at, believe it or not, is not at the bottom, but at the plantations level. Because once the elite have harvested their quota, they have a set quota, to survive, Once that quota is met, they no longer need the plantation owners. They no longer need those kingdoms because there's nothing left to harvest. The quota has been met. So guess what? Their contracts began to fade. And once those contracts began to fade, they don't need the executives. Executives fade away. Once the executives fade away, there's nobody to manage. Because there's no work, there are no contracts, there's nothing left to harvest. So, all those mundane little jobs vanish. That's why. It looks like they got us thinking, hey, you don't want to work for your living. But that's not the case. Open your eyes. The next thing is that when we talk about certain groups, and now I'm just staying between the executive group and the mundane group, or the everyday folk, the layman folk like myself, people at the bottom of the barrel. You have also to understand that along the way, again, we've been being contaminated. So we're also dealing with diseases such as cancer and whatever else is out here, AIDS or whatever. And understand this, that that's not by chance. It's intentional. Because now they don't need this lower half of the pyramid. So it's time to kill us off. And this is the crazy thing. The plantation owners thought they was up there with the elite, but they are not. The executives thought they were up there with the elite, but they are not. So, back to this pyramid on the dollar. See how it's illuminated? Because this is the point we are now in the history of mankind. The elite don't need us no more. They've harvested the quota that they needed to move forward with their plan. Now everything else is collapsing from up under them. They're going to levitate. Why are they able to levitate? Because they have harvested all the natural resources that they require in order to sustain their lives for generations to come. And so what ends up happening, the house of cards falls out from under them, but they're left levitating. And that's the glow of the smaller pyramid on this big pyramid on the dollar. They're levitating. And so what happens to us? What ends up happening to us is that we end up having to deal with social stigmas, social status wars for real. And again, it's our mindsets, it's how we've been trained to think. Either we have issues culturally, you're black, you're white, you're Chinese, you're too short, you're too fat, whatever the case may be, and you don't want to work, whatever the case may be, you are egotistical, whatever the case may be, just to keep us all bickering. And as a result of that mindset, we can't see what's going on. That top half of the pyramid has begun to levitate, and the house of cards is beginning to collapse. And so people are still trying to keep up that face, you know, or that idea of I'm better than you are, I'm grander than you are, I'm more educated than you are, or whatever the criteria is. And when it becomes brutally apparent that this house of cards is falling, people are going to want to maintain their status. You know, if you're well to do, you want to stay there. No one wants to see poverty. But when a house of cards fall, it's going to be difficult. But I see or project that people will, the status will be redefined, you know, because now it's not going to be about the work you can do. It's about your hair, the clothes you can wear, the car you can still drive, barely can keep the note up, the lease, or the house you live in. A couple of years ago, it might have been last year, but I heard an announcement on the news that said that if a person received food stamps, that they would no longer be able to, at least they were reaching for it, be able to buy certain foods. Steak, fish, or seafood, things like that. Now I found that quite interesting because, number one, everybody has a different diet based on religion, based on their tolerance, but that's a way to redefine status. A few days later, I hear another report. If you're on any type of welfare or public assistance, they don't want you to go to parks or to Chuck E. Cheese or anything. You ain't got no business there with the public's money. Okay. Another way to define status. So that's the next case. That's okay. Because again, the house of cards is collapsing. In the Bible, I remember reading that in the final days, it would take a full day's wages in order to eat. That's where we're headed, you know. So imagine the elite are levitating. They are economically independent of the rest of society, of the rest of civilization. And they're levitating. They're all right. Ain't nothing gonna touch them now, you know. But the rest of everything below them begins to collapse. We go through the social discretions and everything. That's okay. It's gonna keep collapsing. And then you have the now the jobs are few, and any earning opportunities based on our current structure are diminishing. No money. So again, here it goes. It'll take a full day's wages to eat. Now, look at this. Maybe part of that. See, remember, they're already starting to redefine what status is. Oh, you can't eat certain foods. Right there. Tell you, we're going to eat this. You aren't. You're going to eat the bottom of the barrel. But in the final days, it'll take a full day's wages to eat. There are no jobs. There are no earning opportunities based on our current structure. So what ends up happening? Starvation. Yeah. You wonder about those zombie movies? There you go. There's something called cannibalism. And when there is no food, people will eat other people. Survival of the fittest. I think it was in 2000 or 2001. I felt what it is to be hungry. Big on me, with money in my pocket. But I was running, so I forgot to eat. And when I looked at it after I had the experience of hunger, uh, it announced itself, big and bold as shit. And I'm like, what is that? What is that feeling? I'm telling you, it felt like death had walked in my body, and I didn't have what it takes to fight it off. I was paranoid and just it was the weirdest feeling I ever had. And mind you, I had only not eaten in a couple of days, just totally forgot because I was just moving, and I had forgot. I really forgot, and I was like, "What is this feeling? Crazy feeling." So could you imagine the masses experiencing that? Many for the first time. Drive you insane. Eat somebody. Sure enough. So understand that once things collapse, and it takes a full day's wages to eat, but ain't no jobs, the next thing is cannibalism. Our zombie. Okay. Well, after that, now we have people needing to hide away. You know, this is our doomsday preppers. They up on it already. Been on it for the last, what, 10 years or so? They on it. They stocking up. They planning. They got their weaponry. They know. They can see what's coming. Okay. Let's talk about zombie prepping. Zombie prepping. Doomsday prepping. Your tribe, you know. Now's the time, if you can, to stock up. Get your weapons. You must. You don't have a choice. Because everybody's going to be going stark, raving mad, afraid, hungry. Our structure that is in place won't be there anymore. So the markets will be clear. Things will stop moving. You know, trucks stop shipping. The market's going to stop having food. You won't be able to go to the doctor. What do you know? Do you know what medicines you need? Do you know what you can go to nature and use to help alleviate some of the problems that you may be faced with that have been superimposed by our current structure? Those kingdoms, those elites, you know? But okay. So now, you out here, it's just you and your family. Who's in your tribe? Do you have people in your family that like to wonder? Do you have people that like to gossip? Do you have people that are so wrapped into the material world, that's all that matters to them? Because during this time period I'm talking about, them the weak links. Not only can they play the weak link role, they can also be a detrimental force in another way. They can be the one that turns you in or try to sell you out for their own survival, not knowing that their fate has already been sealed. Either they gonna get ate the fuck up or bound, enslaved in order to plow a field. Either way, that weak link must be checked now. In those days, when it takes one day's full wages in order to eat, do you understand how important proportions will be? Measuring cups will be. And then if you have someone in your tribe that doesn't realize that and misuses what you have, it'll throw all the rationings off and lead you to starvation. This is where I see humanity headed. Okay. So now you And before I move on, I like to talk about gaining real traits. Now, that is of the utmost importance to be able to fix on a car, you know, a carburetor type of car, to be able to know how to fish, to plant a garden, to jarring, to doing first aid. All these things will be needed in these days. Now, I want to jump from talking about how man gonna behave to how this earth gonna behave. Now back to those elites. Those elite folks just wanted to hurt, hoard the natural resources of this earth. And so they had the kingdoms, the executives, and the workers. And we have gutted the earth out. Mm-hmm. Removed her blood, the oil. You know, dug her diamonds out and her crystals and her quartz, leaving large empty caverns. And so she's sick on the stomach. She's very ill. And so she's going to be just like you would be if you were ill. Stomach hurt, vomiting, diarrhea, shaking, sweating. She's about to go through all that. Let's say it gets real bad. That's why those elites been looking in outer space, because they know it can get ugly, you know. They do have a hideaway spot now. I want you to know that. An oasis for themselves, built for themselves. Mm-hmm. But they've been looking in outer space because they know they might have to get off this mother sucker. And if they can, they will. Okay. But okay. Earth has gotten sick due to man abusing her. And so the day is going to come. The time is coming. We're seeing it now. You watch the news, you're seeing pitfalls fall in major cities. Pow, pow, pow. You know, you're seeing tsunamis come up. Never heard of a tsunami until a few years back. Coming up, wiping whole cities out. Tornadoes. I mean, the tornadoes are not. They becoming very dynamic, even in their structure. And they have grown with intensities. Volcanoes erupting. What do you think that is? She's sick. And so she's going to shake things up as she gets better. You know what I'm saying? She's trying to fight off this illness. She's trying to resettle herself. And we're the ones on this earth. And unfortunately, we're going to catch it. In the earthquakes, in the volcanoes, in the hailstorms, in the snowstorms. We've had very cold winters, extreme winters, tons and tons of snow. Wow. What you gonna do? This is where humanity is headed. Okay. So now we got the elites taking over the world. We got these kingdoms and these executives overseeing the common man in order to do what? Harvest the natural resources of this earth to give it to the elites. And then we're left to deal with the indigestion and the illness of the planet Earth. Wow. There are no jobs. And see, we don't know how to garden and do all those kind of things. Dig up wells, light a fire, by hand. We don't know that anymore. But that's what we're going to be pushed to. You know what I'm saying? We don't know how to go find the actual vegetation that is edible and distinguish it from something that's not. We don't know how to use different poisons to heal us. Not to kill us, but to heal us. But these are the things that the doomed preppers have. That's what they're prepping. That's what they learn. You know what I'm saying? And storing up. And understanding how to cleanse water that has been contaminated. Things that are what? Life-sustaining. So, as we move further into where humanity is going, we're now dealing with starvation, illness that have already been superimposed. Question: how can you be beneficial to your tribe when you're dealing with a chronic illness? That's why those illnesses are being superimposed on us. It's to help make us weak in the time that we need to be able-bodied. You know, you become a weight or a weak link to your tribe. Mm. Then we're dealing with, again, the social um, situation and the cultural differences and stuff, making big old um, issues out of things that mean nothing. But they do mean you ain't keeping your eyes on what's real. And you're sitting up blaming the next person when there's actually this one little group. I heard 1% of the whole population, the elite class, that has set a plan in action that the outcome didn't include you and me. So let me look over my notes because I'm not doing a good job. I really wanted to do a good job, but I know I'm not. But just to get the idea out here. I'm trying to think of the rest of the video that I did. I did this video before, and I did a great job. It just had too much personal information in it. I made it as a note to myself so I can make this video, and I'm not doing it justice at all. But okay, I talked about the cannibalism. I talked about the weak links within a person's tribe and how the elite have an oasis, a paradise to move themselves off into, and how they're still trying to plan how they can go in outer space while the earth realigns herself, readjusts herself, heals herself. And oh yeah, it was one of the scripture from the Bible I wanted to talk about. It says in the final days, God will call the birds of the air to a great feast. Have you ever heard of that? God is going to call all the birds of the air to a great feast. Why would that be? Is what I asked myself many years ago. He finally revealed and made it make sense. Well, when the earth is shaking herself up, when everybody's scrapping for food, people are going to be dying everywhere. There's going to be so many people dead, there's going to be nobody left to bury the dead. So, you know, this God thing is that I'll call the birds of the air to a great feast. They will be feasting on the carcasses of the human race that have died from all of the natural disasters, from starvation based on us being foolish and blind to what the elite's plan has been and is. Now I'm here to tell you, the elite are really close to executing the final phase of their plan. And the final phase, everyone, is merely to get rid of the lower half of the pyramid. They no longer need the spinal support of civilization to be in the position they are. They've already bamboozled us. We've already given it over. We didn't understand what wealth really is. Now we do. My question to my viewers is, how can we rectify the situation from this point? Can we stop it? And if not, tell me this. Can we prepare? Can we start taking care of each other? Can we start educating ourselves to the living naturally so that we can work together to pull through this thing that's going to happen? Because it's inevitable and it's soon. Yeah. I was just trying to share my thoughts. Maybe Mess maybe. I'll do a better job next time. Until next time, bye.